We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to your live boxing ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to your live. Devin Haney did not impress in his comeback fight with Jose Ramirez. So in this video, I'm going to take you through it, let you know why I felt that way. And I got to do some follow-up. Now, I tell you guys all the time, there's a lot of low quality content available in this boxing space. So you as a user, you must beware and be clear of this so you could tell the warning signs. And I've noticed the Haneies, you got content creators who are trying to make Devin's performance out to be like Devin is being persecuted and he's being marginalized and it's just a hate brigade. And this whole almost conspiracy narrative, right? A conspiracy narrative to ratify and explain away a performance that just wasn't that good. Now, I talk all the time on my channel about double standards and racial double standards in the world of boxing. I've done it since I've started and I won't stop, right? But at the same time, you got to be real with yourself. Some things are what they are, and it's not necessarily the narrative that some of the spin doctors try to portray it as. Like, for example, and I know this is a sensitive subject, but we got to be real here on my channel. For example, there are videos where it's Oscar Grant, the police officer. I'm from the Bay Area. I remember exactly when that happened, right? The police officer in that particular video, they were in the wrong, right? So you had a black man who lost his life. They made it Fruitville Station. Shout out to Ryan Coogler and MBJ. And, you know, you look at that, it was wrong, and nothing else could be said. However, there are some times where there's a video of a police using lethal force on somebody, and the person happens to be black, and the black person may have made a bad decision that ultimately led to the excessive force or the use of lethal force, not excessive, but more lethal force, right? And the problem I have is you got a lot of people who try to convolute the two and confuse the two, and it just waters down the real life scenarios that we should be talking about, right? The real double standards, the real true conversation pieces. And that is not good because it almost becomes like the boy who cried wolf. For example, I talk about double standards all the time with black and Cuban fighters, but they're real. And I'll explain why they're real and how it's wrong and stuff like that. Devin Haney, his performance, let's talk about that, with Jose Ramirez, it just wasn't good, right? And then you'll have content creators like the Haneies who will attempt to, again, make this big conspiracy about why people are negatively responding to that particular fight. What did Devin do with what he was up against that you felt was great? To me, he was using unnecessary energy. I can't say that's masterclass, right? When you are fighting negative and you are apprehensive and hesitant to engage, that doesn't scream confidence. Now, lateral movement, perfectly fine. That's what Floyd Mayweather uses. That's what the late, great Pernell Whitaker, Sweet Pea, used, right? They introduced some foot movement and lateral movement, some angles, whatnot. Nobody has a problem with that. But when you're 3 minutes in a round and the clock goes down to like 2 minutes and 10 seconds and neither guy is throwing a punch, that's something completely different. Now, for me, knowing boxing, I'll say this. I would even give it a pass if I understood it more. Like, for example, if there is a guy who's not known for power, like let's say Devin Haney was a middleweight and he was fighting Gennady Golovkin in his prime, right? Hey, no, guys. Hey, Max's guys is tick, nothing, right? Then using the knowledge I have of this beautiful sport and assessing the situation, I wouldn't have as much of a problem with that, because some fights are like that where you got to be fleet-footed depending on who you're in there with, because if you sit in pocket and bang too much, the person's way stronger, way bigger, better power puncher, whatever. A recent fight would be F.A. Ajagba versus Martin Bakole. Martin Bakole weighs 299. That's 300 pounds. F.A. Ajagba, very lean, muscular, 240. But he's giving up 60 pounds to this dude who is built like a bear. You know what I mean? And F.A. was introducing movement, especially early. A lot of foot movement, jabbing, and keeping his distance and controlling the distance. Again, what he's in there with, 300-pound Bakole at heavyweight, right? Who likes to fight and throw punches. That makes sense. But for Devin Haney, the fight that I watched was, Jose Ramirez looks like a dead man, right? He's not doing anything. He looked like he truly could not pull the trigger. He couldn't get anything going. It was weird. He was almost cutting off the ring, but then he would cut off the ring and he would just freeze and he would never let it rip. So to me, this is why I said initially why the Haneies chose Jose Ramirez. It was a kind of a safe option. And I said that before the fight. I said, for me, Jose Ramirez hasn't looked too great in his recent performances. He hasn't really looked, I literally said this, he hasn't looked good since the Hooker fight. So for me, it was a kind of a no-brainer. Plus, Devin fought at a catchweight. So yeah, I expected a whole lot more from Devin Haney. Now, the Ryan situation, I understand it was a battering fight, whatnot. But according to Ryan says that he only lost to Devin and his fans, the Haneies. They claim that Devin only lost to Ryan because he's a cheater. So you would expect, if that is in fact true and you believe that, Devin's confidence should have been higher, right? You got jobbed, a person jerked you, Osterine, they cheated, and it wasn't a clean fight. But Devin didn't fight with this level of confidence, right? So that theory goes right out the window. If you really felt you were wrong and that's the only reason you lost, then I truly feel that the performance would be different. But to me, it was very apparent, at least for the first fight. I don't know what happens in the future, but at the first fight, this was very good that Devin Haney didn't fight a bigger and badder option as his comeback fight, because it looks like something was lost in the Ryan Garcia fight. And the other thing is, people in boxing, they don't want to have accountability. I'm big on accountability. The way Bill Haney talks, the way the Haneies were talking, for me, it just didn't match up with what I seen. You had Devin at the weigh-in saying, I'm gonna stop you, watch this, I'm gonna stop you, I can't wait to show y'all on Friday, blase blah. He even said Jose Ramirez looks small, and there were many opportunities for Devin to really get off on Jose Ramirez, who appeared like a dead man, and he just never took him. And this is just, Devin had the opportunity to show people that I fought Ryan, he cheated, and me at my best, I'm on a different level. The only reason I look like that was because of Ryan and his foul play, right? But you didn't make that statement, in my opinion. You didn't make that statement in this particular fight, right? And people are trying to skirt around the issue and make it into something that is not. Some people perform and other people don't perform. Point blank, period, right? You have guys like Jaime Munguia. He just got knocked out by Sudase, and he switched his trainer, got with Eddie Reynoso, and he fought a bit different. Like, he was more reserved and more cautious, but he still was not fighting total. Like, he was still letting his hands go and stuff like that. So for me, with Devin, I wouldn't have been mad if for, let's say, 3 or 4 rounds, you come out testing the water. 3 or 4 rounds, you're very cautious and tentative, shake out the cobwebs, ring rust. Let me see how I respond to getting hit, not in sparring, right? And then you crescendo and build from that. That's not what I've seen. So it's so funny too, because you look at the Haney content creators. The Haney content creators, they rush to make content and videos and posts about how bad Ryan Garcia looked, and make no mistake about it, he looked bad versus Rolly, right? But then so did Devin, and then they don't want to make no content regarding that. So I keep proving to you guys time and time again, when it comes to objectivity, when it comes to knowledge of the game in the digital age, I am the best in the business, and it's not even close. I give you a fair assessment, and you guys could try to spin it and flip. Oh, you hate this fighter and that fighter, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you won't give Devin credit. Listen, I give him credit for winning the fight. You needed to win, but that's about where the buck stops. It just didn't look good. Now, again, you got Haneies and content creators who are trying to spin it, flip it, turn it into like a race issue, or, oh, you guys just hate Devin. The Devin hate train is full and all this type of stuff. No, he just didn't look good. Some fights just aren't good, right? It has nothing to do with being black, white, Mexican. It's just you underperform based on the variables, right? Like, one of the worst fights that I could recall watching was Rances Bartholomew and Robert Easter. Robert Easter, I've covered his fights, right? Like when he fought Mikey Garcia, I was in LA for that. You know, I've watched his fights when he fought the Richard Comey and stuff like that. The other fights were cool. He had good performances, and or even if he lost, you know, he tried or whatnot. Cool. But Rances Bartholomew versus Robert Easter was a terrible fight. And I've always given props. I'm not old media where I can't give props to black fighters and Cuban fighters, and I hate on black and Cuban fighters, right? It's just what it is. So the bottom line is that fight just wasn't good. Same thing with Devin Haney. Devin Haney versus Ramirez and Ryan versus Rolly, those two fights are among some of the lowest amount of punches recorded in the 12-round affair. It's like in the top 5, right? So they both weren't that good. But when you're Devin Haney and you are supposed to be what you say, they say like, oh, the next Mayweather and the most skilled. And here's another big point that I think a lot of people are conveniently leaving out. People keep saying like, oh, but look at Ryan. Ryan at least had an excuse for why he was hesitant versus what he was in there. He was in there with a big puncher. Tank told you Rolly hits like a ton of bricks. Rolly is the hardest puncher I've ever faced. When the shots were like barely hitting, I felt it. It felt like he had bricks in his glove. This is what Tank Davis told you, right? So why would we doubt that? Why would we question that? So when Ryan gets dropped early in the fight, coming off a year layoff, to me, it sounds like Ryan decided and made a conscious effort that I can't get embarrassed any further. I don't want to commit too much. So he didn't really see the openings. Rolly fought a very disciplined fight, which I think a lot of people aren't giving full credit for. And as a result, he couldn't get nothing going. But again, Ryan at least has an excuse for why his output dropped and why he looked like that. But from what I'm seeing in the Devin Haney fight, Devin didn't really have an excuse to look like that, to not engage, to be non-committal, to fight that negative. He didn't really have a solid reason that he should be doing that, because let's be clear, You were coming off a year layoff. Ryan was coming off a year layoff. You fought at a catchweight. Ryan, in his first fight at welterweight, fought at the full 147. Rolly looked in shape at 147. So Rolly is also a big puncher, and it showed. Rolly also clipped Devin with a double left, beautiful punch placement, and it Ryan, I don't think he truly recovered mentally or physically or whatever in the fight to get nothing going. So again, completely different fights. Ryan's game plan was altered by not wanting to taste that power. Plus, they had sparred in the past. So Ryan, that probably brought up nasty memories. Like, man, this dude kind of embarrassed me in the Mayweather gym, bloodied my nose, the tape leaked, people said I was losing. And again, sometimes when people have this PTSD, if you will, and they have these moments and you feel like somebody got their number, it feels like deja vu. Like, man, maybe I can't just beat this guy. Like, every time Rolly just has my number. And I think Ryan checked out. That's what I truly believe. People keep saying, oh, it's Osterine and all this stuff. I think he checked out because of that power. Rolly was not fighting reckless. He probably thought it was going to be some easier work, and he had advanced much further, and he was like bigger than Rolly at this point and older. So then when he fought Rolly previously. So I think Ryan, he got ahead of it. And you were looking towards a Haney rematch, so there's a lot of pressure there. Plus you're fighting outdoors in a weird environment. All these types of things factored in. So again, Ryan at least had a reason why he was non-committal, because he got cracked. Devin never really got cracked like that in the fight with Ramirez, and Ramirez didn't look as dangerous and formidable as Rolly did, and he's older than Rolly. So for me, at some point in the fight, for Devin not to step on the gas, it shows me that the Ryan fight perhaps left some kind of lingering doubts or a lack of confidence on behalf of Devin Haney. And I'm not the only one that said that. So many people said it. Dillian White was like, I'm in the UK and I stayed up for this. It's like the Haney fight is horrible. Tim Bradley was like, man, it was so embarrassing. Ryan put on the ish show and Devin Haney did too. Dylan Dennis said the city that never sleeps finally got some sleep because of the Haney fight. So again, you guys, because I'm a YouTube content creator, you can try to spin it, flip it on me, come up with these conspiracy theories. Oh, you guys, you just hate Devin and all that stuff. He didn't look good, bro. If he looked good, I would give him his props. If he looked masterful, like the Ryan fight didn't change him or affect him, I would say that. I also didn't hear any good corner advice from Bill Haney, right? Nothing that didn't sound generic. So if this is the Devin Haney that we have to look forward to, it's going to be hard, because Devin Haney, it seems like he cares about his image and he wants those big paychecks. I don't know. I'm not Turkey, but I don't know how willing a guy like Turkey would even be to keep rationing out these big purses to fighters who are performing like Ryan performed, Ryan Garcia or Devin Haney. And that's just the reality of it. That's the reality of it. So I think when I give my breakdowns, I give them fair and keep it real. The reason why Devin is perhaps getting, I think, more scrutiny than Ryan in both looking bad on the given night is because Devin really has no excuse for why he looked like that with a less dangerous opponent, right? Ryan could at least say, man, this guy hit hard and I know him well from the sparring, so I couldn't make no mistakes and I couldn't get nothing going. But Devin, he was just moving, using the whole, and it goes against everything that him and his team pretty much said leading up to the fight. They even had Sugar Shane Mosley vouching for them and saying that, oh, I showed Devin how to score knockouts now. I showed Devin how to put that extra pizzazz and snap on his punch. So now he's going to be more dangerous. Where was all of that? Where was the Big Bear, Shane Mosley, Rocky IV training? Oh, I was training in my mansion and I got out of my comfort zone. So yeah, I think the expectations were higher for Devin who is said to be super skilled, and he claims Mayweather passed the torch to him, and you said you lost to Ryan solely because he cheated, yeah, I think people wanted you to look better. And then the Haneies continue to make weird decisions, like he's ringside with Bill, and they're laughing almost that Ryan lost. I thought that was a bit bizarre. And to me, it looked like almost a bit of relief of like, hey, we might not even have to fight this guy, Ryan Garcia, anymore because he just lost. But my thing is this, what part of the game is it with these new YNs and this new generation where it's like almost they're rejoicing when other people beat another person, right? Like Rolly, he beats Ryan, and then you see people celebrating like they beat Ryan, right? Or you had Tank and he fought Lamont Roach to a draw, and people were like, oh, Lamont Roach did better. And you had people going on social media, other fighters not named Lamont Roach, they acting like they put in the work with Tank and, you know, had the draw and Tank took a knee and all that. I mean, the game is looking super goofy, like at an all-time goofy, where you have almost fighters rejoicing over other people's performances. Me as a man, it could never be me, but y'all know that I'm the best in the business and it's not even close. I come from a really different generation than this new generation where you have certain integrity and morals. Like, what do I look like rejoicing at certain things? It's just like when somebody get football numbers or RICO case, like if you're a rapper, even if you're op with somebody, you want to see a person go to prison for life. You know what I mean? Like that's weird, especially if they like frame the person or it was some BS. You know what I mean? Like you're happy about that, but it just kind of shows character. Devin Haney, when the fight got overturned with Ryan and Ryan got suspended, they were pushing for a lifetime ban and a lifetime indefinite suspension for Ryan Garcia. And when he did get suspended for the year, Devin Haney posted a video with a sleeveless shirt in a bowling alley dancing. Like, yeah, haha. Like who does that? Like the outcome is what it is, cool. But to post a video dancing a jig because somebody got in trouble, I don't know, this is kind of weird to me. So I thought the behavior was a little weird ringside. And like, if you really wanted to fight Ryan again, I would be mad. I wouldn't be like smiling and shaking my head and keep smiling. I'd be mad like, bro, you messed up the bag. Like, even if Turkey decides to do this fight, is he gonna really pay both of y'all whatever he was gonna pay you before if y'all both had better performances? So for me, I think the valuation and the value of the fight has dropped significantly. It significantly dropped. And I would be mad about that. Like, and it goes to what I was saying. This is exactly why you don't do what they did. And I was on record saying that many, many times. You don't put obstacles in front of your mega fights because boxing's too unpredictable. And if somebody doesn't clear their obstacle, then you had this big fight. And Turkey should know better because he's already done this and had these blunders, right? Where he put Wilder and Joshua on the same card. Wilder doesn't make it past his opponent, right? You gave Joshua Otto Vailin, but then you gave Wilder a former champion in Joseph Parker, so he got the harder fight, right? And then Parker upsets Wilder, so he messed up the plan. You have Martin Bakoli supposed to fight F.A. Ajagba. They robbed F.A. Ajagba, for the record, for IBF Eliminator. You pull him, fly him to Saudi Arabia overnight. He out of shape, get knocked out by Joseph Parker. So Parker keep playing spoiler. And now you had Haney and Garcia. They said it was already signed behind the scenes. But then what? You signed it behind the scenes. And now do you still do it with Ryan looking flat and horrible and Devin Haney? Again, you guys can say, oh, a win is a win, ego. That is true. A win is certainly a win. But Devin had an opportunity here with the spotlight on him to really show his character and really put some silence to people who doubted him after the Ryan Garcia fight. And I don't think he succeeded in doing that. If anything, people have more questions. Like, is this how you're going to fight from now on? Because you were in there with a mid to subpar level threat. The Ramirez that showed up, it wasn't at the full welterweight, and you look deathly afraid. Like, you fought super negative, like you were in there with the Terminator. Yeah. You close your boots, give them to me. Nice night for a walk. Yeah. Right? You act like you in there with the Predator or something. Anytime. Want some candy? Daddy boy. Right? And I didn't see Ramirez really doing much of anything for you to be acting like that. So I thought the whole night was horrible. And the main event and the co-main event, simply put, were disastrous, because that was supposed to build up a fight, right? You know what it reminds me of? Let me give you guys an analogy. It reminds me of like men going on like first dates with girls, right? A girl agreed to the first date, so there has to be some level of interest, because if she thought you were ugly or a weirdo, she probably wouldn't even accept it, right? So they keep talking though. Like, a lot of times men will talk and talk and talk, and then it gets to a point where you say something and then the person sees something in you that's ugly that they don't like, your character, and then they don't even want to give you a chance, if you will, right? Like you talk too much and then you turn the girl off. Like, you talking about your old ex relationship and how you have a bad temper, and then the girl just met you, you said that, and she's looking at it, that's a red flag. I'm cool, you know. You tell her what you got mad at, and she thinks it's something like insignificant that you shouldn't have been mad at. So men do that all the time, where they don't really have any game and they'll talk to females, and when they could have had a chance with the female, they'll end up messing it up by over talking and oversharing, right? So that's what it kind of reminds me of, a lot of this stuff with what Turkey did, you know, Times Square. It was more about the spectacle and the flash and, oh, this will be history, more than substance and a good event. And going back to the dating analogy, how men overshare to the point where they end up ruining it, and then they mess up their chances of taking that girl home, you know, that's what Haney and Garcia did for me. You try to extend it, and then you overshared, put them in with separate bouts. Devin Haney looked suspect, didn't look like the Devin that fought Regis Prograis, and then Ryan looked flat and getting dropped. So it's like, this defeats the whole purpose of building up Garcia Haney, and it literally did the exact opposite. It made people not even want to see the fight. Like, how bad can you be at your matchmaking where you do these like interim fights to hype up the fight, and then both of them backfire, and it gets to a point where, as a result, you hurt the fight more than you help it, and like people are like, I don't even want to see that fight now. Like, I'm just good leaving that in the past. And that's what honest people are saying. Like, a lot of people are saying that now. Like, I'm off it. They should have already fought, and this is literally what I told y'all from the beginning. This is why you don't do this. This is why you go straight into the rematch. Boxing's too unpredictable. So at least if Devin, no matter how Devin looked and how Ryan looked, you would have had a winner out of one of them, instead of Ramirez potentially winning or Rolly winning, which is what he did. So horrible decisions. And for me, they definitely hurt. I'm not saying they can't do the rematch, but it definitely lost. It's like kind of like Joshua Wilder now, Fury versus AJ now, Amir Khan versus Kell Brook when they fought. You wait too long, and what could have been monumental fights, like almost like $100 million fights that would have generated a lot of interest, the value of the fight goes down. And I think Devin's performance alongside with Ryan's performance did in fact just that. We unpacked.